Before we jump in, I also want to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Rene Gonzalez, who is here with, why don't you actually come up to the table? You'll get used to sitting in these hard wooden chairs up here at the table. Congratulations on your election, and as is tradition, since we're discussing the legislative agenda, both the state and the federal legislative agenda, it's tradition that newly elected officers are allowed to sit and participate in the meeting, given that this will be the agenda that you have to live with as well, Rene. So we're honored to have you here. The Office of Government Relations is here today to explain the new political landscape in Oregon and Washington, D.C. I look forward to that, and to provide recommendations for the city's federal and state priorities in 2023. I'm going to turn this camera off because nobody wants to see my nose hairs, do they? Can I turn that off? Good, that's much better. I also will now turn this over to Interim Director Nils Tillström to lead us through today's work session. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Nils Tillström. I'm the Interim Director in the Office of Government Relations. And as the Mayor mentioned, we're here today to discuss the city's draft federal and legislative agendas for 2023. The Office of Government Relations serves City Council and the city's bureaus in providing strategic advice and lobbying to advance the city's policy goals in Salem and Washington, D.C. Through our state and federal relations programs. In short, we're the city's lobbyists and serve as primary point of contact for external elected officials and partners in these spaces. These draft agendas will guide the city's lobbying work during the 2023 legislative session in Salem, as well as the first session of the 118th Congress. Reflective of the City Council's recently adopted emergency resolutions, the top line focus of both these agendas address the urgent needs that the city faces today in homelessness, public safety, behavioral health, and affordable housing, among other priorities. These agendas are big and strategic because as a city, we're facing big challenges that need to be faced strategically. These agendas will position the city well in conversations in Salem and with our peer cities nationally to drive funding and policy changes towards outcomes that benefit the people of Portland. The format for today. We'll describe our process coming to these drafts. We'll provide the context for the draft agendas regarding the city's core values and equity foundation of our work. And then we will provide an overview of the political landscape in Washington, D.C. and Salem, discuss some of the top-line issues for the next year, and walk through the contents of the draft agendas with the federal agenda first, followed by the state agenda. The process of developing these draft agendas in front of you today began in July with a call for issues from city bureaus and council offices. Over the last several months, our office engaged council offices, bureaus, and external stakeholders in considering the items included in the draft agendas. For example, based on conversations and feedback from council offices, the priorities addressing homelessness and affordable housing and addressing the need for drug interdiction and treatment are elevated in these agendas. And along the way, we met frequently with external stakeholders and partners to learn about what will be on their agendas in the coming year and what possible coalitions we will be in over the next, in 2023. We have worked with our partners in the Office of Equity and Human Rights to better center the city's core values of equity and anti-racism in our work, and you will hear remarks from Director Lisa Watson on this topic. Today, we will use PowerPoint slides to guide the conversation, and Mayor and Commissioners, you have paper copies of the slides and draft agendas in front of you, and copies of the draft agendas are available on our website. So please feel free to ask questions as we go. I'd also like to introduce Yvette Perez Chavez, who's joined our office recently as the State Associate. She'll be running the slides, so ask her to help stick on a slide if you need. But before I hand it over to Director Watson of the Office of Equity and Human Rights, I want to take a minute to do two things. I want to first thank you and your offices for the collaborative conversations over the last several months on these agendas. Our goal in this work is to develop a roadmap that allows us to clearly advocate for the priorities of the city in Salem and Washington, D.C., and allow for the city to speak with one voice on the issues that matter most to the city and its people. I also want to thank our legislative liaisons in each bureau and your offices in the preparation of these drafts before you today, as well as support year-round. And at this point, I'd like to hand it over to Director Watson.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Commissioners, Mayor Wheeler, and Commissioner-elect Gonzalez. Welcome. My name is Lisa Watson, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm the Director of the Office of Equity and Human Rights for the City of Portland. And I'd like to thank Interim Director Niels Tillstrom for inviting me to join you all today to discuss how equity was prioritized in the development of the draft state and federal legislative agendas, and to highlight the partnership between our two offices. I'm going to begin by mentioning our city's 6 core values, which are equity, anti-racism, collaboration, transparency, fiscal responsibility, and communication. As we all know, these values are intended to be developed competencies and associated behaviors that guide our actions as we conduct our work, engage our workforce, and empower and serve our communities. And these core values also complement our citywide equity goals and strategies, which include utilizing a racial equity framework, building organizational capacity, and leading with equity at the front and center of our work. The Office of Government Relations has demonstrated that they hold these values and goals as foundational to their approach in developing the City of Portland's 2023 state and federal legislative agendas. They have an integral role and a responsibility in advocating for change at the state and federal levels, especially for our communities impacted by racial, gender, economic, and other social injustices. The Office of Equity and Human Rights has partnered with government relations through a shared equity manager who has worked closely with the state and federal teams and bureau leadership during the development of the draft agendas that are before you today. For the development of these agendas, the Office of Government Relations sent issue identification sheet templates to each office and bureau earlier this summer. These issue sheets are the beginning of the legislative agenda building process. The issue sheets stated and set a precedent that through their advocacy, the City of Portland is committed to centering racial and disability equity, ensuring that existing inequities are not exacerbated, and working to repair past and present harms. All the issue sheets were required to be reviewed by a bureau's equity manager, or, if they don't have one, an equity practitioner. The issue sheets asked a number of equity-centered questions, including, was this informed by Bureau's community engagement work, and if so, how? How does the proposal advance the city's core values? How will it improve racial equity in Portland? And lastly, if and how it will improve outcomes for tribes and urban Native communities. After receiving the issue sheets back from bureaus, the Office of Government Relations, in partnership with the Office of Equity, conducted a thorough evaluation. That process included an equity analysis for every proposal through the use of an internal equity tool. The items on these agendas before you are reflective of City Council's stated priorities, and were also informed by legislative issues which have a strong nexus toward advancing equity in our community. This commitment is reaffirmed on the foundation statement on the front page of both agendas before you today as well. As we're all collectively striving for the City of Portland to be an anti-racist institution, one of the ways in which we can further that is through our advocacy efforts at the federal and state levels on behalf of our community members. My office looks forward to continuing to work with the Office of Government Relations to continue improving and refining our processes to advance equity in the City of Portland's advocacy efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Watson. I want to again publicly thank our small bureau equity manager, Senator Jambaz Lawrence, who has been an active partner in the formulation of our work on these draft agendas, and we've appreciated working with her. I would like to now introduce the Federal Relations Program for the Office Capital before handing it over.
Of the House will have a hard time legislating. Kevin McCarthy of California wants to be Speaker, but he needs to get 218 of his colleagues to vote for him in January. Regardless of who is Speaker, Republicans will have a difficult time passing legislation given their very slender majority. So they may have to reach across the aisle to accomplish some of the goals, and we will be working and looking for those opportunities where they do reach across the aisle together. We can also expect to see a lot of investigations of the Biden administration in the House. There is a new generation of Democratic leaders in the House, with Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, both in their 80s, stepping aside. It is expected that Senator Chuck Schumer will remain Majority Leader of the Senate, and Senator Mitch McConnell will remain Minority Leader. Red states appear to get redder, and blue states appear to get bluer, but Oregon could be the exception to that observation. Florida, which voted 2 times for Obama, reelected Governor DeSantis and Senator Rubio, both Republicans, by double digits. We're real and showed up in the election return. Delegation will work across the aisle on certain matters. Next slide, please. So, as I mentioned earlier, the decennial census catalyzed redistricting and the addition of a new 6th congressional district. As you can see in this slide, which is the 2010 congressional districts established by the 2010 census, Portland was largely divided into 3 districts, the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th, for the past 10 years. Next slide, please. In this slide, you can see how the new districts have been redrawn with Congresswoman Bonamici in the 1st district, which has been significantly increased and into different parts of the city from her previous district. Congressman Blumenauer is in the 3rd, and the 5th district will be Representative-elect Chavez DeRemer, and it moved a bit north to pick up neighborhoods in southeast and southwest Portland. And the new district, the 6th, is Congresswoman-elect Salinas, which does not have a lot of Portland. I think just 3 neighborhoods in southeast Portland, southwest, sorry. We look forward to working with all of them in the new Congress on issues of importance to the city and the region.
Can I ask a question here?
Yes, of course.
And it's okay if you're not prepared to respond to this today. Do we have a sense of how the new district lines kind of change the character of these districts? I have a pretty good sense of like District 3, because I have a good sense of how the old District 3 relates to the new District 3. District 1 is an odd district because it both has a significant hunk of Portland, but also kind of goes all the way out to the coast and down to Salem. I'm kind of not sure what that district is about, and I'd be curious about the demographics and material interest of
Sure.
our local delegation.
I'm happy to start, and I think maybe Jack can jump in, having recent history with the delegation, especially the 1st district. But the 1st district moving into all of downtown Portland and the inner southeast, central east side, provides us a greater opportunity to work with Congresswoman Bonamici on issues. It provides us more of an audience there. The 5th district moves into a number of neighborhoods in southwest Portland, pretty much everything south of I-5 in southwest Portland, and on the in southeast Portland, parts of Selwood, Eastmoreland, Arrow Heights, Brentwood, Darlington, and Kendall, all in southeast Portland. So it's a wide swath of differing issues or differing impact on the issues that we're facing in those areas, as well as Vicki mentioned the 6th district. There are quite a number of households in the 6th district, but that one is going to be interesting. Both the 5th and the 6th will be interesting because as you go south, the politics change in those districts quite a bit. The 5th district has Clackamas County and then also parts of Bend, right? So it's a big geographic swath of Oregon, but we anticipate some interface with those offices.
Great. Great. Go ahead.
Oh, Jack, I don't know if you have anything to add.
I think I would just add that Neil's correct about the 1st and the 3rd district. I think to the extent that the 5th district and the 6th district representatives will be paying attention to and be responsive to our concerns really just depends on the level of our engagement with them. And so I think it'll be incumbent on us to remind them, you have this slice of Portland and here are the issues that, may also apply to other parts of your district.
Great. Well, thank you. You know, something which I hope that we do in the wake of these new district lines is to do outreach to our local congressional delegation. They're all great, of course. But for example, I'm looking at District 1. I think it's with the new lines, we probably, Bonamici is probably representing parts of the central industrial east side, which has been the topic of a lot of conversation. There's some unique challenges in that neighborhood, which the Congresswoman might not have had to deal with in her previous terms, but are, I think, quite important and unique to this moment. And I'm sure, yes, I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
I have a related question, and you don't need to give me the answer now, but could I please see your best analysis of the vote breakdown in districts 1, 5, and 6 in terms of to what degree did Portland residents hold sway, Portland voters? My suspicion, and it's only that, is that our political clout has actually been diluted in those districts, in districts 1, 5, and 6. And therefore, I would argue that our best strategy via
There.
had been diluted in I would argue that our best strategy vis-a-vis our federal office holders is actually to make sure that we maintain good relationships with our local elected officials in those districts, to make sure that we have a unified agenda around the issues that are the most important to us. And we're already successfully doing that with the Oregon Mayors Association and some of the work we're doing on homelessness. We've been doing it on other strategies as well around law enforcement and gun violence. But the way I see this is that the great challenge to us in keeping the attention of those congressional leaders is to have allies when we walk into their offices and ask for something. We need other allies within other parts of the districts where I think the data will show the balance of power lies. It's not with us. We should not assume that.
Thank you.
That I'd be happy to see contrary evidence to that.
Mr. Mayor, if I could jump in here, if government relations has a written response to the mayor on that, my office would love to see it too.
Absolutely.
We will share that with you. The next slide is key accomplishments of the 117th Congress, which was historic in its productivity, passing at the beginning of last year the American Rescue Plan, $1.9 trillion economic stimulus bill to improve and extend existing COVID-19 programs, which provided $207 million to Portland in direct COVID relief funding in 2 tranches. Then last year again, the bipartisan infrastructure law, which allocated $1.2 trillion to traditional infrastructure projects, $550 billion in new federal investments to roads, bridges, mass transit, rail, airports, ports, waterways, and broadband. This is a once-in-a-generation investment. Just this week, the administration announced $680,000 for energy conservation programs for the city of Portland. This bill will provide 4 more years of formula and competitive funding.
Ask you a question on that one in particular. Number one, I assume Suzanne Bonamici had something to do with that one. She's been very engaged in her
Yes.
committee on science, and I want to just acknowledge that. I think this is something she's been working on for quite a while. Obviously, our concern here is Intel as a major regional anchor economically. Is this what they say they need in order to maintain competitiveness here in this market? And what assurances do we have that they'll remain here?
Yeah, and by this market, the chips
It's a
market.
big win having them anywhere in the state of Oregon.
Yeah.
So, my concern, of course, goes back a few years when they had the opportunity to expand. They did not choose Oregon. They went elsewhere. And that was a wake-up call to everybody. And so I'm wondering, with the resources that are now available through CHIPS,
Yeah.
Are their needs met? Is there more that we need to do? What else do we need to be thinking about as a state?
Sure. So I would say the needs of Intel and many other domestic manufacturers have been met for the nation, but your question for Oregon, that's now the competitive aspect of this is what can the state do to, bring that here? And so
I don't
think
recall anything in our legislative agenda focused on that. Is there something we should be working with our colleagues in Hillsborough and elsewhere with to support?
So, and this is where I would point to, you mentioned Congresswoman Bonamici. Senator Wyden is also report. It's looking at land use, looking at education, looking at a number of different aspects of how to make the area more competitive. I would say for us at the city of Portland, the main challenge is we don't have the available large tracts of land that these large fabs, semiconductor fabs need to place their facilities. And so that's one area that we could look at either addressing that here or working with partners because there are a lot of externalities, right? A lot of follow-on businesses and supports that spring up in that ecosystem to support those large manufacturers. So I think that's the area of opportunity is to look further up or down the supply chain.
Is there some way you could reach out to them, to their government relations people, and ask them what they need from us? Partially, I think what they're going to ask us for is do no harm. And I would be more interested in knowing what the recruiting story is. When they're trying to recruit, those are good paying jobs, obviously, and some of them are extremely good paying jobs. What advice do they have for us at the local level? I noticed that we're passing income taxes. I believe there's now a proposal for a capital gains tax. And I would be very interested to know what dynamic that creates vis-a-vis recruiting.
Yeah. Okay, absolutely.
Because
Yeah,
we've heard from many of our employers, if they can't recruit people, they can't stay here.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do that. And I think perhaps, maybe on the state team, there may also be something to add later in their presentation that touches on some of those issues.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Dan has a question.
Why we're interrupting, yeah. So educate me on subcommittees. So the Appropriations Committee in the Senate, which Senator Merkley's on, HUD's below that. The subcommittee for housing is underneath that, correct?
Correct.
In the Senate. Where does it live? And in the other side, in the Congress.
Both
The House.
appropriations committees mirror one another. They each
Okay,
have
good.
12 subcommittees, and the Transportation HUD, we call it THUD Committee, Transportation and HUD, subcommittee is where housing lives. And in the current FY23 appropriations bill in the House, there are higher funding levels for
Yeah.
housing than there are in the Senate, and we've been working to try to keep those higher housing levels for funding for existing programs that are in the House bill as they finalize the process.
Okay. And we'll find out what reps we have in those subcommittees.
Right.
Okay, great.
Right.
And I realize there's a lot in play right now since we have several new people.
Right, exactly. And then finally, the Inflation Reduction Act, which was the last major piece of legislation passed in this Congress, $391 billion for transitioning to clean energy and decreasing domestic energy production, and also lowered prescription drug prices. This is a 10-year investment in addressing climate change, from which the city will receive funding for EV charging stations, fleet conversions, and renewable energy over the next 10 years. While this Congress was extraordinarily active, they are not yet done and are currently in a lame duck session, wrapping up the FY23 appropriations that we were just talking about process, as well as the National Defense Authorization Act, which has attached to it the Safe Banking Act, which would allow legitimate cannabis businesses to bank at FDIC-insured banks. Because these are sort of the last two must-pass bills, they attract like a magnet, all sorts of other things. Three other items of interest in the lame duck session are the Respect for Marriage Act is likely to be passed by the Senate even today, ensuring same-sex marriage and interracial marriages are protected. The Bipartisan Electoral Count Act, which is an overhaul aimed at preventing another January 6th, may be attached to the National Defense Act or the FY23 Omnibus Appropriations Bill. And there is also an interest in additional mental health, behavioral health legislation and funding focused on mental health workforce systems and funding for addiction and treatment that may be added to these must-pass vehicles. And so we're keeping a very close eye on those as well and advocating for them.
Can I ask a quick question? Actually, I have two quick questions. One has to deal with the legislation that is likely to get passed by this lame duck Congress. I guess there's some spending bills that have to come out. What are the odds on the other legislation that, the social legislation that Congress is talking about trying to pass in the next month and a half or whatever it is?
I think it's most likely that the ones that I just mentioned are the ones that have the best chances of passing. I think the House will be trying to push some things through while they still are in Democratic control, but it may be unlikely that they can achieve much because just that there's a time crunch before the end of the year.
Vicki, I want to hold that thought. So earlier I noted that you looked at where there could be bipartisan support, and you mentioned police funding, crime focus. But did I just hear you right that you think, and I wrote down, what about mental health and behavioral health? So you think those are two areas that have some opportunities for bipartisan?
Those have opportunities actually in the lame duck session, so that actually may happen in the next month that Congress
Who's
is in
best
session.
suited from our delegation to be on the committees to advocate?
Oh, I think all of our committee members have been, so some of it will be funding, so that will be Senator Merkley on the Appropriations Committee.
Right, on the Senate side, I'm clear.
Yeah.
It's on the
yeah.
House, I get.
And on the House, I think Suzanne Bonamici will be involved, and I'm sure the rest of the delegation, they're still there, even, DeFazio and
Right.
Schrader, et cetera. So I think they'll all be engaged, and we've been in touch with all of them on this.
One last question, I apologize. Fascinating and important stuff. I'm looking at these key accomplishments, and of course, I've heard of all of them, and actually, on this council, I think we've interacted an awful lot with at least 3 of these pots. And of course, American Rescue Plan, we work with a lot. I kind of understand the dynamics around the CHIPS Act. Inflation Reduction Act is kind of relatively new, but I think I understand what's happening here. By the lack of interaction that this council has had with the inflation or the infrastructure law, can we point to something that Portland has gotten out of the bipartisan infrastructure law?
Yeah, absolutely. So the bipartisan infrastructure law, I think, passed in 2021. It has a long history, a legislative history, because I think for a while now, Congress has been trying to pass an infrastructure bill. I think we have had a sort of at a policy level many opportunities to engage in communities or committees both on the House and Senate side on policies related to multimodal funding, multimodal investment, green transportation, electrification, pieces like that, as well as funding, maybe different funding mechanisms that help make decisions at the federal level. We worked early on in make decision points or decisions at the federal level. We worked early on in for funding for the Reconnecting Communities program, which was and so we, this is the first. We're sort of ending the first full funding cycle of the infrastructure law. So they've had 1 year to push grants out. It was their first year after not pushing a lot of different DOT grants that were last, say, 6 weeks that have yet a lot of work that we have done. As I said, this bill is sort of, I'm trying to remember the number of extensions that the education program has had, but I think it was supposed to have. I want to say have been reauthorized in something like 2015, 2016. So we've had a long time to sort of seed ideas into this legislation.
Great, I'm glad to hear that, and thank you for that backgrounder.
And just to say, we've been very active in applying for many of the programs that were created by this, and we are waiting until DOT has finished going through all the grant processes to give us our results. And additionally, there's a great deal of formula funding that has come through the state. So,
If I could just quickly add, I wanted to mention the interstate bridge replacement project that the city's been very actively engaged in. And so that's a regional, statewide, multi-state, interstate effort that we're very involved in.
I guess my only one was a little bit back on Intel. Your perception right now. Push? There you go. Hit the button that says push. That's how that works. Very straightforward. Yeah, I'm asking a question about Intel, and I got to figure out how to push a button here. With respect to Intel and their positioning, I understand potentially higher wage jobs here, Ohio, mass manufacturing. Is that kind of your read on it, your perception in terms of how they're positioning? Because I'm not even sure we were really a finalist in that when all was said and done. But I could be persuaded otherwise.
I think that's probably a central factor. I wouldn't, want to paint too broad a brush or speculate, but I think there's a lot of different ones. But your point is, I think, well taken, and one that we should focus on, which is that I think Oregon's greatest area of opportunity is a more highly educated workforce that can perform those jobs at our higher wage. And I think, a point I didn't make to the mayor, but we'll get into layers with the economic development and workforce development specifically. We'll mention, WIOA, Workforce Innovation Act programs. I think that's our area of greatest opportunity, is that skilling and training work that a lot of our delegation has been involved on to kind of meet those middle tier jobs that aren't necessarily that, entry-level manufacturing like you're talking about, but a little bit higher up the scale.
As we think about how we position the city, the mayor's questions were well taken in terms of working with Intel to continue to make the metro area as a whole attractive to those type of candidates, because it becomes crucial in terms of our competitive advantage. The other, I guess, is with respect to the Inflationary Reduction Act and the move towards electrification. Our hydro advantage in the region is a real, sometimes underappreciated asset here. And when we talk electrification, it could be, a real strong piece for us going forward. I'm just curious what the conversation has been, and maybe this is more of a question for the state, with other players in the region looking specifically at that act and how we're best leveraging it, not just in the city, not just in the metro area, but statewide, because, again, we have some built-in advantages on electrification that other parts of the country simply don't. So it's more of an abstract question. I'm just sort of curious how others in the state are positioning on that.
Yeah, I think that's one I'll punt over to the state team perhaps to cover either in their presentation later or comment now, or Niels. I think, the opportunities that are there at the federal level, we're tracking them very closely. A lot of them are flowing through the state. And so a lot of that funding goes to the state, and then the state figures out how to divide it. So it'll be incumbent on the state side to make sure, Portland is well positioned and going after those opportunities at that level. Does that cover it? Okay.
Thank you.
And I would say that is such a recent law that we're still awaiting a lot of guidance from the federal government as to how these programs will be implemented.
Got it. Thank you. That's it for me for now.
Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, Congresswoman Bonamici has inserted a Community Safety Plan Pilot Program, $2 million from Congressman Blumenauer. Northeast Halsey Safety and Access to Transit Project has $1 million from Congressman Blumenauer. And the Legacy Business Preservation Project, $325,000 from Senator Wyden and Senator Merkley. So if Congress can't come to a resolution on this overall funding package, and it gets kicked into the next year, which sometimes happens, and into a new Congress, then there is a likelihood we may lose these projects. But if Congress can come to resolution in the next three weeks, month, then we think these projects will stay in, and we will see the funding in the spring. I'm operating on a during this Congress. FY23 this bill, we have several pending projects that are funded in it through congressional funding or community project funding. Community Safety Program, $2 million. Lumenauer, Northeast Halsey Safety, and the Legacy Business Preservation dollars from Senator Wyden and Senator Merkley. So if Congress has a resolution on this overall funding package and it gets kicked into the next year, which sometimes happens, and into a new Congress, then there is a likelihood we may lose these projects. But if Congress can come to resolution in the next three weeks, month, then we think these projects will stay in and we will see the funding in the spring. One other key date is the debt ceiling needs to be lifted again in mid-2023. There has been some talk of trying to do this in the lame duck session, but I think that seems unlikely.
Through the community, as a congressionally directed spending / community project funding, i.e. earmarks process, and it was funded at the full, or it is hopefully will be funded at the full amount requested.
Great, thank you. And your comments just raised another question for me. Assuming that earmarks survive the new regime, is there a timeline for that? When do members of Congress have to submit earmark?
Yeah, so looking down to the bottom of that slide, so the budget will come out in February. That's when Congress kicks off its appropriations process. So they'll start in earnest with budget hearings.
Yeah.
Around that same time, they'll be doing internal prioritization. And so oftentimes they put out deadlines for appropriations requests, and we can either submit programmatic requests. Oftentimes, the city will submit a slate of, support for general funding for different programs. They'll also have a parallel process to submit those projects. So about early mid-March is usually when those deadlines occur.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, well, with that, thank you, Vicki, for all that great information, and good morning, mayors and commissioners. Again, my name is Jack Arriaga. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the Federal Relations Manager in the Office of Government Relations. So Vicki has provided you with the context and climate for our work with the federal government on behalf of the city. Now I'm going to walk you through the highlights of the draft agenda that we've been building with your offices and bureaus. There are several important concepts that frame the draft 2023 agenda. As stated earlier, we have drafted this agenda to align with the city's core values, as well as citywide racial equity goals and strategies. The Office of Government Relations is dedicated to upholding the city's responsibility to center both racial and disability equity in the city's federal advocacy work. Finally, with new members joining Oregon's federal delegation and control of the House changing hands, significant opportunities and challenges arise that will affect how we engage our federal partners, including through national organizations such as the U.S. Conference of Mayors and National League of Cities. As you can see on this slide, the draft 2023 federal legislative and regulatory agenda consists of 7 priorities, each with identified opportunities for action and engagement. The first 3 are structured to reflect the shared priorities adopted by the Portland City Council. Those are addressing homelessness and housing stability, community safety and behavioral health, and economic recovery and development. The agenda also addresses the priorities of racial justice and civil rights, climate and environmental justice, infrastructure investment, and maintaining local authority and imposing preemption. The agenda is an outward-facing document to provide the city's position to our congressional delegation and to the Biden administration. It also serves as a consensus work plan approved by council that allows our federal program to move nimbly in response to the great number of opportunities and requests at the national and federal level. As I'm going through the draft agenda's priorities, please note that with the help of your staff and our bureau liaisons and subject matter experts, we have identified more than 60 opportunities for action and engagement that fit under these 7 priorities. I would also like to take this opportunity to acknowledge my colleagues, Kari Schlosshauer and Haley Tortorella, on our Grant Opportunities Advancement team within the Office of Government Relations. Their work will be instrumental to the success of many of these agenda items in the coming year. We've sent you in your office initial draft details of all these items. The copy of that draft is in your materials. Given our limited time, my presentation will provide a very broad overview with additional comments on only a few select issues that are either new to the agenda or may warrant the added attention this year. Of course, happy to answer any questions on any of the items in the document. So next slide, please. So the first priority is addressing homelessness and housing stability. As council often emphasizes, meeting the needs of those experiencing homelessness and lack of access to affordable and safe housing is a major priority for the city of Portland. Our work spans beyond funding for essential federal affordable housing programs and rental assistance into tackling the root causes of homelessness, including but not limited and housing insecurity, with identified as opportunities for advocacy and action include the following. First is updating the federal definition of who is experiencing homelessness to expand eligibility for programs and services. This will also ensure that the definition no longer understates the true unmet need or conceals existing racial disparities. Next, identifying pathways for the use of appropriate surplus federal property or for outdoor or alternative sheltering strategies like villages and safe park programs. Another priority is preventing mass evictions and foreclosures. The city will support additional funding for emergency rental assistance, mortgage assistance, and enhanced eviction and foreclosure prevention. And finally, the city supports increasing the availability of HUD housing choice vouchers for extremely low-income older adults and people with long-term disabling conditions. And if there's no questions, we'll move on to the next slide.
I have a question. Maybe it's more of a statement. It seems like every couple of months this council does an inventory of surplus property, looking to perhaps cite or use that property to set up shelter for folks who are houseless, and I support that. And I'm glad to see that we're also encouraging the federal government to think about the property it has and how it can be used to help house folks who are currently on the streets. I do find it curious, and I sure would be interested in seeing some report on underutilized federal properties in Portland. That's just data I haven't seen at all. It would be fascinating to me to see if there are some spaces in town that the federal government owns that might be appropriate for a safe rest campus, for example.
At the risk of regretting what I'm about to say, I would be happy with an acknowledgement that homelessness is a federal priority. If we got that out of this next congressional session, I would consider it a victory. What has happened historically is the federal government has backed out of its commitments around zero to low income housing. And over a period of decades, that responsibility now rests firmly with local government. And it is a minority of local governments that are strained under this issue. Portland absolutely, positively is. Some of that we brought upon ourselves through a lack of action. Some of it was brought upon us by a state that only recently really starts to see homelessness as a state priority. And a lot of it came from a lack of support from HUD that started in the mid-1980s and continues to this day, despite some of the good efforts, I would say, of the current secretary, who I think is fantastic, by the way. But the bottom line is support for affordable housing is down 85% between the 1980s and the present, meaning that local government has been asked to take up the slack, and we just don't have the capacity to do it. And so I'm wondering how, rather than just a laundry list of small programs that check boxes, what's the best way for us to organize with other like-minded jurisdictions to make this a federal priority, the way that this city council has organized to make it a state priority here in the state of Oregon? That is the thinking I'm doing. because I don't believe it is acknowledged really as a federal priority. I see the federal government in some ways being an interested observer and occasional critic of the work we undertake here at the local level, but partner, not yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear that, and I think I would go as far to say that the federal government maybe sees themselves as the last backstop, right? They're providing the most basic federal safety net, and leaving it to state and locals to react to that. So-
We're trying to provide housing with limited resources. We're needing more of those resources from the federal government, including the vouchers and some of the work you guys have been doing on private activity bonds and LIHTC and other important issues. But now we're taking on mental health and substance abuse treatment as well.
Yeah.
And that is typically not the purview of municipal government, but increasingly it's becoming a mandate for local government.
Yeah, I appreciate
We
that.
need
And-
partners, and the federal government is a potentially potent partner for us.
Yeah, and so to your point and question about, raising this nationally with like-minded partners, I think that's where some of the tables that you have already shown up in, with the, U.S. Conference of Mayors, League of Cities, you were one of the founding members of the mayors and CEOs for Affordable Housing Solutions, or I think I'm getting the name slightly wrong, but Mayors and CEOs group that is really trying to take a not only bipartisan but nonpartisan approach that I think is going to be needed, because the reality is with the House changing hands, and perhaps the focus, there's going to be, I think, a challenge around a narrative of blue cities or urban versus rural and not. And so I think we need to find opportunities to kind of bridge that divide. And as I know our delegation is well aware, the housing and homelessness issues that we're facing here in the city are acute, but they are not unique to Portland. They are being experienced across the state, including in some suburban and rural areas, and I think that's true across the country. Get some buy-in from those who are now in power in the House, the Senate, and the White House.
Jack, I appreciate that. I'm not naive enough to assume that the lifeline will come from the top down. It's a ladder we have to build from the grassroots up. And it sort of gets me back to my point. We need to focus on other jurisdictions within our congressional districts and then go to our elected congressional members and make it clear that it is a priority for a wide variety of municipal governments in our jurisdictions, in their jurisdictions.
Absolutely.
Nobody's going to jump into homelessness voluntarily.
Okay, great, thank you. If there's nothing else, we'll move on to our next priority, which is community safety and behavioral health. The obligation to keep the public safe and healthy rests in many hands. The city will continue advocating for federal funding and policies to develop public safety solutions that best fit the needs of our community and will allow all Portlanders to feel safe. The city will also pursue policies and resources to adequately address behavioral health needs, including access to mental health services, substance abuse treatment, and other supports. Priorities in this area include increasing federal resources and coordination to support interdiction of interstate drug trafficking, particularly of fentanyl and methamphetamines, supporting Portland Street Response to respond to low acuity behavioral health and non-emergency medical calls, advocating for increased funding towards local gun violence prevention programs, and supporting increases in federal resources for mental health and behavioral health services, including addressing staffing needs for intensive inpatient services, such as increases in base pay and benefits. Are there any comments or questions on this slide?
Yeah, I'll offer a quick comment. I support all of these. At the same time, I don't think that we can underestimate the importance of interstate drug intervention. I would argue that a lot of the tragedy that we see on our sidewalks are a product of fentanyl and meth coming into the Portland metro area. Frankly, if we did a better job of keeping fentanyl and meth out of Portland, I would argue that a lot of the other problems we're trying to address with this legislative agenda would be much easier to fix. Just looking at the bullet points up there, if we had less fentanyl, for example, in Portland, I think we'd have fewer houseless people, less gun violence, fewer behavioral health problems, less domestic violence, less sex trafficking. So I think this is incredibly important. I think we've seen some encouraging signs recently of intergovernmental partnerships and cooperation around getting fentanyl off the sidewalks of Portland. I hope that we can continue to see that work done, and I want to encourage you to do everything you can to educate our federal lawmakers about the importance of this issue. Thank you.
Jack?
Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, we all agreed with what Commissioner Mapp said. Let's think about strategy. Sometimes where I get confused is we have a laundry list to be excited about here, but we have system failures when it comes to community safety. We have system failures when it comes to behavioral health. And I'm in a meeting like this, I'm thinking where, the county and the city really should be together on this and exactly aligned. And so the city first response systems, that's what we have. The county has judicial. The county has treatment and corrections locally. And so that's the system. The handoffs don't work very well. You could say each area has a lot of work to do on the local level, but we of course want some more support. But if I was up there, I'd want to hear how we're organizing locally so that the investments would have more impact. And so I'm thinking out loud with you. I know that's a little dangerous right now, perhaps, but I'm missing that in this dialogue right now. So it feels tactical, and I want to know what are the categories of first response? What are the categories that are under these said sections? And then there's others that, of course, feel like they're part of the infrastructure, as opposed to, and are more construction related and more capital related and one time only. So it's more, I guess, of a statement and a dialogue, and how can we work with you so that we can show the voters and the residents of this city who are just at their wits' end with how messed up our systems are.
Yeah.
I'll answer that question, or I'll give you some feedback on that. I appreciate the statement. I think these agendas are drafted also in the context of other stakeholders' work. So we meet regularly with the county and their government relations team to understand how our work interacts with their work, and where we will be pushing and pulling on our partners in that regard. So, the strategies are on these pieces are sort of yet to be worked out or being formulated as we move through this process. But these are sort of our part of the puzzle pieces that are fitting together to get to the.
On their own, they
address
feel
this-
transactional, and yet I know they're pieces of the puzzle that are building a better system.
Yeah.
And I think our narrative has to shift more to how we can explain with inspiration
Yeah.
how these pieces are coming together to build a better system that all of our local residents realize are broken.
Appreciate that.
And I also see that there's a lot of restarts going on with the city and the county, and so take advantage of that momentum. And so far in my 2 years here, I haven't experienced that, and it's not your fault. I think it's all of us just recognizing that we could keep doing better in that regard. Thanks.
I just want to do a time check. Nils, how are we doing time-wise? There's a giant clock behind.
Yeah, we are an hour.
Giant novelty clock.
Yeah, I can't. Appreciate that, Mayor. I think Jack has just a couple more slides. I think we'll sort of speed through the
Okay, if
lesser
you need us to
priorities.
speed up,
Yeah,
just
and
let
then
us
we'll hand
know.
it on.
We're not
Pre-
easily offended over here.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do know the state team has a lot to get through with you, so I will try to be quick. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Next will be economic recovery and development. So national and global economic challenges are creating burdens and causing uncertainty for many Portland households and businesses. The city of Portland will advocate for crucial federal resources, policies, and practices that create opportunity and address the economic needs of all Portlanders while prioritizing vulnerable populations. So key items here include increasing funding to the Community Development Block Grant, which is used to implement adult and youth workforce development programs, and also for the development and preservation of housing. Increasing fundings for programs through the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act for job training, dislocated workers, and placement assistance, and supporting the creation of a federal qualified office conversion tax credit to assist downtown revitalization. If there's no comments or questions, we'll go to the next slide. So racial justice is the next priority, racial justice and civil rights. The city of Portland is advocating for anti-racist public policy at the federal level to strive for more equitable outcomes for our community members. The city recognizes and acknowledges impacts of public policy that lead to inequitable outcomes and is actively engaged in evaluating and challenging its own practices, and will advocate to the federal government on several issues, including establishing federal reparations for Black and Indigenous communities, in concert with tribal partners, supporting the efforts to preserve the rights of tribal members and their descendants with respect to tribal sovereignty and self-governance secured under Indian treaties, executive orders, and benefits to which they are entitled under the laws, treaties, and Constitution of the United States, and supporting federal codification of discrimination protections based on sex, sexual orientation, and gender identity. If there's no comments or questions, we'll go to the next one. Next, we have climate and environmental justice. So the city of Portland recognizes this is a critical juncture to invest in a swift transition to clean energy while reducing energy costs for low income and the most vulnerable in our communities. This work centers the protection and well-being of Black people, Indigenous people, and people of color, and builds resilience and stability to withstand future crises. Effective implementation of these goals can only truly be met with intentional and robust federal engagement and support. So areas of focus here include supporting federal investment in reducing carbon output through transportation sector innovations and facilitating an equitable transition away from fossil fuels, pursuing federal funding opportunities for investment in climate resiliency projects, some funding which the city recently received, as Vicki mentioned. These will include going after projects such as urban tree canopy, landslide, flood, and wildfire prevention, floodplain restoration, mitigation, banking, and resilient city facilities. We'll also support the city's continued leadership in the Portland Harbor Superfund site cleanup to ensure progress and accountability, and leverage the U.S. Forest Service's Urban and Community Forestry Program to help sustain trees and forests where people live, work, and play. No comments or questions on this? We'll go to infrastructure investment. So when it comes to investing in infrastructure, the city of Portland believes that a strong federal partner is essential for the health and safety of the public and the environment, and for the growth of the local economy. So key items in this section include pursuing funding opportunities in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act to support city interests in meeting safety, equity, climate, and mobility goals, supporting federal investment in electric vehicle infrastructure throughout the city, identifying federal funding opportunities for the Broadway Corridor project and upgrades to Union Station, and supporting efforts for establishing high-speed passenger rail in the Northwest. And if there are no comments or questions, then we'll go to our last slide. So finally, the last priority in the draft agenda is maintaining local authority and opposing preemption. Local authority is critical to the City of Portland's ability to respond nimbly and effectively to both local community and city operational needs. So the City of Portland opposes efforts that would curtail the ability to develop and enforce local ordinances and voter-approved measures to manage its bureaus and their functions, or to maintain and raise revenue consistent with the city's principles and values. Key items under this priority include protecting local authority to manage the public right-of-way for telecommunications, broadband, and cable facilities, establishing strong federal privacy protections for individuals while still allowing cities to responsibly deploy technologies that best serve their communities, including consumer privacy, biometric data collection and distribution, surveillance policies, and facial recognition technologies. Protecting local regulations on transportation network companies, automated vehicles, and e-scooters. Developing regulations to prioritize inventories of chlorine and caustic soda from manufacturers and distributors for use by the water sector, and maintaining local authority over chemical treatments for drinking water systems, while still preserving the Environmental Protection Agency as the principal oversight body of the water sector. And so if there are no comments or questions? Yeah.
One quick one, Jack. When you're back to the infrastructure investments, as we repurpose our energy infrastructure, moving away from fossil fuels to green renewable fuels and electrical, predominantly housed in our area and in Linton. And I don't see anything that talks about upgrades that would reinforce that as we prepare for, the big one, if you will. So that's a lot of the really smart feedback coming to our offices and at the county as well. Did I miss something?
Yeah, I think if
Is it living somewhere in one of those bullets? I
there
just can't
was,
see it.
so there is an item in the agenda around the critical energy infrastructure hub and safe transportation of oil by train. So I think generally that captures in the, I think it was actually under the climate and environmental justice. Community safety, thank you. Thanks, Vicki.
It's under community safety.
Under community safety,
Okay.
we had items around addressing the potential threats of earthquake or other disasters.
There's some Venn diagram with these things where they live in more than one. Yeah,
Yeah.
got it. Thanks.
Yeah, but I would also mention that.
I think we could still be more explicit in our language, perhaps.
Sure. And I think, I would just mention a key part of, it's not only mitigation and resiliency of those, it's also, to your point, I think, moving away from fossil fuels.
Right.
And going, and making sure that other, renewable energies are implemented in a safe and effective
Yeah,
way.
I mean, we have investments to protect and keep our water pure, but if there's a big one and, there goes that. So, yeah.
Sure. Okay, if there's no other comments or questions, that would conclude our overview of the draft federal legislative and regulatory agenda.
Thank you, Jack. So moving to the city's 2023 draft state legislative agenda, I'd like to introduce Eric Knoll, who's our state relations manager, and he'll provide an overview of the political landscape across the state and in Salem before walking you through the draft agenda with our state relations team. Eric?
Thank you, Niels, and good morning. Again, my name is Eric Knoll. I use he, him pronouns, and I serve as the State Government Relations Manager for the City of Portland. In this section, we'll provide background and context for Oregon's new political landscape, including the impact of key races, ballot measures, and new members of Portland's legislative delegation. Then we'll take a quick look back at 2022 session accomplishments, followed by a look forward to likely issues in 2023 and key upcoming dates. And finally, we'll review the 5 priorities in the draft 2023 state legislative agenda. But first, I'd like to take a moment to introduce you all to the city's new state relations team. As Niels introduced, Yvette Perez-Chavez joined OGR back in September as the State Relations Associate and provides support to the team through research writing, scheduling, policy analysis, and much more. Ricardo Lujan Valerio, who's joining us virtually today, joined our team also in September and will carry the housing and homelessness, energy and environment, and telecom portfolios. Dominique Rossi joined our team earlier this month and will hold the community safety, behavioral health, and labor and employment portfolios. And finally, to round out the portfolios, I'll lead on the topics of economic recovery, tax and finance, and infrastructure for the city. The portfolios for our team were designed to add capacity to the state government relations program and streamline efforts to address the city's, to serve as conduits between internal policy work at the city and external partners. Our expertise lies in the state political process, centrally coordinating the city's state legislative efforts through a strategic and unified agenda, which the draft of which is before you today. We rely very much on your staff and Bureau staff to be the subject matter experts and work in partnership with them regularly to develop and advance policy solutions in Salem. And as Niels mentioned, we're tremendously grateful for their hard work and partnership. One of our key roles for the city is to provide council and bureaus with strategic advice, including analysis of the state political landscape. And as such, let's dive into a review of the election results and a balance of power in Salem. Governor-elect Tina Kotek will be sworn in on Monday, January 9th. The same day, each legislative chamber will convene to organize for session and elect their presiding officers. In the November election, Republicans gained 1 seat in the state Senate and 2 seats in the House, but Democrats still hold a 17-12 and 35-25 majority in each of those chambers. The Oregon Senate will have a new president for the first time in 2 decades. Senator Rob Wagner, representing Lake Oswego and Southwest Portland, was selected by his caucus for a nomination to succeed President Peter Courtney. Senator Kate Lieber from Southwest Portland and Beaverton was selected to be the caucus's new majority leader, and Senator Tim Knopp will continue his role as Republican leader. In the House, Representative Dan Rayfield from Corvallis will be nominated again to serve as Speaker. He was first elected Speaker in the short session earlier this year. Representative Julie Fahey from West Eugene and Junction City will continue in her role as Majority Leader. Representative Vicky Breeze Iverson from Prineville currently serves as the Republican leader in the House, and that caucus will hold leadership elections on December 6th. While the balance of power remains the same, Democrats no longer have a supermajority in both chambers, which requires Republican support to pass any revenue-raising measures. Another key dynamic going into 2023 is the sheer number of new legislators in the building, and this is reflected more so in the House. In the Senate, there are 6 new members, but 5 previously served in the House. In the House, there will be 21 new members, a third of the chamber, and over 3/5 of the chamber will have not experienced an in-person session or in-person committee meeting. As such, this will be the first session since the failed 2020 short session where the legislative process will be conducted in person. The committee process will retain a hybrid option, but our team will be back to our daily Salem commute in mid-January. Additionally, in this new landscape, we will face a few new challenges. The Capitol remains under construction for seismic renovations, which means that most of the building will be off limits and the wings and committee rooms will have capacity limits. With new chamber leadership will come new and updated committee assignments, likely sometime between mid-December and early January. And further, with limits to the number of committee rooms and meeting slots, there will be fewer opportunities for policy bills to be considered in committees prior to key session deadlines. Legislative leadership and the Joint Ways and Means Committee are preparing for a session that likely includes reductions to agency budgets due to revenue coming in below current expenditures and increased current service level calculations for state programs. More on this to come later in the presentation. All of this leads to an environment of scarcity, where being focused and united on the City of Portland's legislative priorities will be necessary for us to succeed. Moving on to the next slide, another notable outcome.
Can I jump in and ask a couple of questions about the election results? Can you tell me about that independent in the Senate? Who is that?
The one independent member of the state Senate is Senator Brian Boquist from Dallas, formerly a member of the Republican caucus. A couple sessions ago, split from the caucus, decided to caucus on his own, although he will largely vote with the Republican caucus in the chamber.
What was the nature of the split? Is he, well, yeah. How would you characterize the nature of the split?
If my memory serves correctly, largely over disagreements on how the caucus was moving forward, in particular with policy priorities and approach to working with the majority party.
Okay. And frankly, can you tell me a little bit about the legislative Republicans? There are not a lot of Republicans representing the Portland metro area. Is there ideological diversity amongst the Republicans we're going to see in Portland, or is it yeah? How would you characterize our colleagues on the right?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. This is the first session now since redistricting, and in particular with former Representative Mark Meek narrowly defeating Bill Kennemer for Senate District 20 in South East Portland and Clackamas County. This is the first time that the Portland delegation of 27 members will not have a Republican member. So the entire Portland delegation is reflective of Democrats in the House and the Senate, which makes the work for our team, both in terms of engaging with a Portland caucus, but also the broader legislature, to get back on the road, to visit districts outside of the Portland area, and now that we're back in person, rebuild relationships with members of both chambers that have common interests with the city, like local authority, like infrastructure funding, like economic development and public safety, and finding areas where we can collectively succeed on those key issues. In terms of the Senate Republican caucus specifically, again, Senator Knope of Bend will continue his leadership of that caucus. And in my experience working in the building, has been one to approach a policy agenda rationally and seek bipartisanship where it's available.
Great. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
A quick reflection on the election related to ballot measures. Another notable outcome of the November election is the passage of all 4 statewide ballot measures. For the sake of time, I will highlight 2. Measure 112 was referred to the ballot in the 2021 session. Portland City Council supported Senate Joint Resolution 10 to refer the measure. This cycle, Oregon and 3 other states voted to remove language in their state constitutions to prohibit slavery and involuntary servitude as punishment for a crime. And by way of background, Oregon voters passed Measure 112 with just over 55% of the vote, which is a narrower margin compared to other states. Similar measures passed by almost 80% in Tennessee, 89% in Vermont, and over 76% in Alabama. The other notable measure to highlight this morning is Measure 114. Voters narrowly passed Measure 114 by a margin of about 1.5%. The measure provides direction to local law enforcement related to firearm permitting, among other provisions. As with recreational cannabis legalization and Measure 110, the legislature is likely to consider legislation to fix and/or further implement the measure. Our team has connected with the city attorney's office to analyze the local impacts of the measure, and we are including engagement with Measure 114 implementation in the draft agenda, which will be previewed on a later slide. Next slide, please. Quick summary of new members of the Portland delegation. Following redistricting, as I mentioned, the Portland delegation has 27 members, with 8 new members elected for the first time. And rather than going person by person, I will just highlight that your state government relations team will be reaching out for introductory meetings and to build relationships with new and returning members of the legislature as we turn the corner into 2023. Next slide, please.
Okay, before we go, just real quickly, what do the asterisks next to Bauman,
Yes.
what do those mean? Travis is
Happy to
new?
provide
Travis
that
has been
context.
around, hasn't he?
Yes, the single asterisk next to Representative-elect Bowman and Senator-elect Woods are to indicate that while we define the Portland delegation as state legislative districts that have an overlap with City of Portland boundaries and residents, they have half a block of residents in their district. So by definition, we will include them in the delegation and conduct outreach on issues of common interest. But compared to other districts, it's a relatively small portion of residents. Representative Nelson, we added an asterisk next to his name in this case because this was his first time being elected to the district. He was appointed to fill a seat in House District 44 and was sworn in on the first day of the short session this year. So since we've last met with council, he is technically a new member of the delegation since last year.
Makes sense, thanks.
I'd now like to just take a quick step back and review the city's successes from the 2022 short session. The session lasted approximately 1 month and adjourned about 10 months ago on March 7th. The city has a lot to be proud of and a number of successes to celebrate. Included in this slide is a selection of items we achieved from our 2022 legislative agenda that included 5 priorities substantially similar to those in the draft before you today. The short session was unique in scope and resources, with the legislature allocating over $2 billion in unanticipated one-time revenues in the second half of the biennium due to higher than expected tax returns. However, much of this same dynamic won't persist into 2023. Next slide, please. Sure.
We don't have to go back, but what did the bullet point that says no major preemptions enacted mean?
Great question. As part of our local funding and authority platform, which has been a perennial item in the city's legislative agenda, oftentimes we are in a position with the state to play defense on legislation that seeks to preempt city authority, limit our ability to raise revenue, or otherwise tie the hands of council in making decisions and managing affairs for the city. So by highlighting that no major preemptions were enacted, we were successful in preventing any further restrictions on city authority.
Okay, thanks.
Looking forward, the legislature is poised to tackle major challenges in the next session, many of which are aligned with the priorities in the city's draft legislative agenda. And above all, 2023 is a budget session. So put another way, all paths to success will lead through the Joint Ways and Means Committee in 2023. All major issues in this case will be resource intensive and have a nexus with the state budget, which will be much more difficult to navigate than the prior two sessions. Recent revenue forecast projects mild recession in the next biennium and $3 billion less in the state budget than was allocated in the 2021-23 biennium. And this is largely due to the influx of one-time revenues, both in unanticipated revenues to the state, as well as limited duration federal resources from the American Rescue Plan and Congressional Appropriations Act that are scheduled to sunset by 2024, midway through the biennium. While the state does have a $4.1 billion historic ending fund balance, it is also largely going to be offset by a projected $3.7 billion kicker to be paid out on Oregonians' 2024 tax returns. One aspect of the budget process, again, is the expiration of the funding cliffs for many one-time programs approved by the legislature in response to the pandemic. We are likely to see a dynamic in this session where, with many of those programs, constituencies were created by the people served or the businesses served by those programs, and many of those constituencies will be pushing hard to make their programs and services permanent going forward. Further, the impacts of inflation, wage increases will put pressure on state agency budgets seeking to receive additional funding for new programs or just to maintain current service levels in existing programs. It'll be important to hold this in context as we review key dates and review the draft 2023 state legislative agenda priorities. So next slide, please.
I had a quick question on that.
Yeah.
So do we have any idea what housing supply is going to look like at the state legislature? And similar question on public defender system revenues. Do we have any idea what the shape of that might be?
Absolutely. So I'm happy to address the question about housing supply, and we'll look to my colleague Dominique on the public defender question. For the last 5 or so years, the legislature has been very focused on tenant protections as a means to stabilize folks in housing. There will likely be a shift in the dynamic this session. It's something that has been simmering for a number of legislative cycles where there will be a robust conversation about the supply of housing in the state.
Okay.
I think we're well aware of media reports that illustrate that Oregon is 110 to 120 thousand units short in its housing supply. The city of Portland has a goal of increasing the production of affordable housing by 20,000 units in the next 10 years. This issue will tackle anything from land use to the cost of housing, to the impacts of labor, regulatory barriers, state barriers. Basically, every piece of the conversation we've experienced as part of housing supply will be back on the table as part of a conversation in the session, and I would not be surprised to see an omnibus package on accelerating the supply and development of housing come out of 2023.
And do you anticipate any pressure on urban growth boundaries as a part of that conversation?
I expect that will certainly be part of the conversation. It is too soon to tell what the art of the possible is and whether some form of compromise legislation will come out of those discussions.
Thank you.
And I can dive into the public defender space now, or we are going to talk about it a bit.
Oh, if
in
that's
the
fine, I'm
session.
happy
Okay.
to wait.
Great. Thank you. So I want to take a moment to place us on the timeline and highlight a few key important dates. We are here today on November 29th reviewing the draft legislative agendas for the city. Your state government relations team will be in Salem on the 7th through the 9th of December, meeting with legislators, securing sponsors for legislation, and further advancing the city's draft legislative priorities. We will come back in the new year in front of council on the 4th or the 5th of January for approval of the legislative agendas, pivot in the next week to hosting our annual legislative breakfast with the Portland delegation to share and collaborate on Portland's priorities. And then 5 days later, your state team again will be starting the daily commute to Salem for the 2023 session. Again, holding the budget in context, with a new governor, even though historically we've seen the governor's budget in early December, we will see the governor's budget released in early February this session. We will see the next quarterly revenue forecast in late February, which will then inform the co-chairs of the Joint Ways and Means Committee as they publish a budget framework by late March. That budget framework, as well as agency proposed policy option packages and budgets, will inform budget hearings that the Ways and Means subcommittees will hold between late March to early May. The May revenue forecast will provide final numbers for the budget writers to finalize their documents, and we will start to see agency budgets finalized and voted on the floors of the chambers by late May, with session wrapping up and adjourning by the 160-day mark of June 25th, in time for all members of the legislature to be back home for 4th of July parades. Any questions on this slide?
Yeah, can you remind me what is meant by the pre-session filing deadline?
Correct. So procedurally, for bills to show up in the legislative information system and to be first read, each bill needs to be read a first and second time, referred to a committee, and then third reading and a final vote occurs on the floor of each chamber. For a bill to be first read on the first day of session, it has to be filed by a member of the legislature by December 21st. Strategically, and in many cases, that is advantageous when trying to advance legislation because it gives you the maximum amount of time to get the bill scheduled for a public hearing before key deadlines. For legislators to pre-session file a bill and have a draft back in time, they will have had to submit a draft request by September 23rd. Our team worked with legislators well ahead of that deadline to put a lot of drafts in the queue, and we'll be working to refine the list of bills the city works to pre-session file. There will be a second date for bill filing and deadlines that occur in January and February, but that will further delay. And again, recognizing the scarcity of hearing time slots and the number of bills that can be considered, put additional pressures on the ability to move a bill if it's not pre-session filed.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so on to the city's draft 2023 state legislative agenda. This agenda is built on 5 priorities. In the draft document in front of you, the priorities are delineated by initiatives and policy positions. The initiatives category is designed to indicate where the city is leading in coalition with partners or introducing legislation. Also, and equally as important, policy positions indicate where the city will support efforts led by partners or coalitions, and also give us direction to respond to legislation and bills we have not yet seen. Each bullet point is framed as an outcome statement, providing our team the latitude necessary to deliver on the outcomes in the state legislature's dynamic environment. And as Niels mentioned, the process began in July with a call for issue proposals to your offices and city bureaus. Our team has worked over that period to take what we've heard from your offices and city bureaus to build a united package. While each of these priorities are interrelated, we've heard loud and clear that homelessness and behavioral health are central leading priorities at the core of the city's legislative agenda. Directly related and dependent on the first 2 priorities of housing and homelessness and community safety is economic recovery. And underpinning council's ability to deliver locally on city priorities is maintaining and expanding local funding and authority. And finally, while we maintain a focus, we do maintain in the agenda a focus on the climate crisis and infrastructure as a foundational piece to the city's work, and cannot lose sight of our sticks and bricks functions to provide clean drinking water, safe roads, and accessible parks for Portlanders, for example. The city's advocacy in Salem will also take a comprehensive approach that focuses both on short-term crisis response and long-term issues and root cause interventions. And so with that as the foundation to the agenda in front of you today, I will turn it over to my colleague Ricardo Lujan Valerio to walk through the first of the 5 priority areas.
Thank you, Eric. Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners, and Commissioner-elect. For the record, I am Ricardo Lujan Valerio. I am a state lobbyist for the City of Portland, leading this portfolio. As I dive into our first policy priority, housing and homelessness, it's important to keep in mind the challenges the city currently faces and the urgency to collaboratively find resources across the state. For that reason, a major priority for the city this legislative session is championing the request from the Oregon Mayors Association Task Force on Homelessness to provide direct, ongoing funding to cities to address homelessness. Part of navigating this funding request will be building a strong and collaborative relationship with other Oregon cities, state legislators, and the governor's office to successfully create a new jurisdictional partnership on homelessness with the state. Second, the city will advocate legislation and funding opportunities to accelerate the development of affordable and workforce housing in Portland. This work is also directed by one of the resolutions recently passed by this council, and somewhat serves as a placeholder as the conversations develop within council offices and bureaus on strategies for accelerating the development here in the city. This also means working closely with state agencies and making tax incentive programs accessible to affordable housing developments. Next, the city will advocate for funding state programs that preserve affordable housing and stabilize renters and homeowners. This will require working closely with the Oregon Housing and Community Service Agency on and tracking their 2023 policy and budget request to ensure that programs like rental assistance continue to be a top priority for the state. And lastly, we will look forward to leading legislation reforms and technical fixes to state procedures for land use appeals to ensure more engaging, transparent, and efficient processes are taking place, and extend the sunset date for the home buyer opportunity limited tax exemption, the HOLTE program. That, again, is not an exhaustive list of the work that we'll be doing, but are some of the top priorities for the city. And if you all have any questions, I'm here to answer them right now.
Then we'll move on to
Just
the next slide.
actually,
Oh,
Rico, good to see you. If you go back to that slide, thanks. Could I just hear your definition of affordable and workforce housing, just so we all are on the same page?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Part of our goal is to address both affordable housing development, but also just the overall market in which development needs to happen in the city of Portland. Development in general seems to be at a slow pace for a multitude of reasons. And so our goal is to be able to holistically address the development within the city of Portland and across the state.
Okay, I'm going to get a little more concrete. So it's 0 to 30 is desperately needed, and then 0 to 60. Actually, it's interesting. It goes 30% and then it's 60. There's really a big need at 40, 45% in terms of workforce housing. So I think it's really important that we continue to have that dialogue. 80% doesn't really cut it in the city of Portland. So thanks.
And if I could just add on this slide, just to reiterate, the homeless funding through the Oregon Mayors Association, this is an effort being conducted jointly by mayors across the state of Oregon. This is bipartisan. It includes mayors from Eastern Oregon as well as our side of the state. And it is a joint ask of the legislature as well as the incoming governor, Governor-elect Kotek, to allocate what ultimately works out to be about $126 million towards homeless services based on our share of the population. That would be about $26 million for the city of Portland. And those funds are obviously critical to the resolutions that we will pass on Wednesday, tomorrow. So we'll continue to push for that. But I also just want to acknowledge, connect this to the conversation I had earlier about the federal agenda, that here at the state level, we are starting to organize in a bipartisan manner, big cities, small cities, east cities, west cities, to acknowledge the importance of homelessness and the need for the state to acknowledge that importance and support our efforts. So I just wanted to call that out. The other stuff I'm really glad to see here, the acceleration of affordable and workforce housing development. I'm really appreciative of the relationship with Commissioner Ryan and the Housing Bureau on that front. Ultimately, part of the problem we have here is a lack of very affordable as well as workforce housing in our community. We're short at this point tens of thousands of units based on demand. Demand continues to be strong despite the efforts of many to make Portland the poster child for everything that is wrong in the world. The fact of the matter is we are still attracting people from all over the nation. We are a net in-migration city, and I expect that to continue. In fact, I just read something the other day that said we're the #1 city in America for Gen Z. Who would have thunk that, right? And I'll just leave that where it is. But we are also, by the way, still one of the most livable cities in the United States. We still are considered the #1 destination in the United States for restaurants. I believe we were recently picked on that front, somewhat humorously, but truthfully, #1 in the world as a destination for vegans. So for those of you who are healthy with your diet, that's important to note. And of course, we just got the Women's Final Four, which is one of the greatest opportunities in sporting in the United States. And in their statement that they were accepting Portland is the location for that in 2030, they were acknowledging the many things that are going right in the city of Portland. So I just want to acknowledge there's some good stuff on this list. We got a long way to go. There's a lot of challenges to overcome, but I'm really grateful to see that we're starting to develop strong partnerships both at the state level with our legislature, and I'm very optimistic about the meetings I've had with Governor-elect Kotek, who made a surprise visit to City Council the other day to acknowledge her support for the work that we're doing, particularly around homelessness. So I just wanted to put that in here on the record for the 10 people who are watching.
Thank you, Mayor Wheeler and Commissioner Ryan. I'll pass it over now to Dominique to cover the community safety.
Thanks. Good morning or almost afternoon. My name is Dominique Rossi. As Eric mentioned, I am 3 weeks in at the city, but this will be my 10th legislative session. So I hope to be useful in any ways that I can. My pronouns are she and her, and I will be covering the portfolio related to community safety and behavioral health and that important nexus in between. Through this priority, the City of Portland is committed to advocating for policies that enhance safety for all Portlanders and expand access to critical behavioral health services, particularly for BIPOC communities acutely impacted by public safety policies and decisions. Portland is also committed to strengthening interjurisdictional partnerships to address the drug supply crisis. So under our initiatives, the city will advocate for expanding access to behavioral health resources, including crisis stabilization and getting back to the meth and fentanyl issue, and services for dual diagnosis populations. The city will engage in work groups related to Measure 110 reforms, both at the judiciary and behavioral health spaces, and we will strongly support public defense reform that addresses both funding and caseload. And to your question, Commissioner-elect, there's a lot happening on the public defender's side. There was a mass work group that got split into 4 subcommittees looking at different issues. Mostly 2 of those are being spearheaded by the judiciary chairs from both chambers. I think this year we're going to see a bill to restructure the commission that oversees it and who has voting within that commission. I think they're hoping to have voting members of the commission appointed by the different branches of the government, or move the commission from the judiciary branch into the executive branch. So I think that's going to be one piece. There's also going to be these Obviously the workforce retention and caseload are going to be longer term issues that we have to solve for. I think in the meantime, we're going to see some Band-Aids put on it. So there's been discussion about providing stipends for court-certified law students, and also the state attorneys working as trial attorneys to sort of get through that backlog. But it's going to be an ongoing, multiple disciplinary issue. They're also going to work on court efficiency stuff, like trying to get e-discovery available and uniform across the state.
Can I jump in here? I appreciate that detailed background on the public defender piece, but I also kind of don't get it. I think the problem is Portland doesn't have enough public defenders. I think we saw in the press even this week the district attorney say that since February they've had to basically drop misdemeanor and felony charges against 287 folks who are in their system. I'll tell you, our office has dug into this problem, and we agree with the assessment that Portland just literally doesn't have more public defenders, and I appreciate the committees and the whatever they're doing, but I don't understand why we're just not hiring more public defenders.
Yes, so I think that that's going to be a part of the developing the workforce. We have a very unique, we're the only state that does a contracting system, so it's sort of a multifaceted problem we've created where the contracts underpay in relation to stuff that other graduates could be pursuing. And then the caseloads are so high, I think it said we're at like 30% capacity for the state, and every public defender we have would have to be working 26 hours a day in order to catch up. So part of that is going to be incentivizing graduating attorneys to go into this field, and we need to level that incentive a little bit for what their other options are.
Okay, I mean, I know you're not making the policy here, and I know my colleagues know that this is a true.
It's a problem.
Yeah, this is like one of, I would argue there are a couple of bottlenecks that prevent Portland from thriving. One of them is the fact that we don't have enough public defenders. It's not that hard. Let's just hire more lawyers. Yeah, and you'll never hear me say that. But this is one of the situations where the fix is to just go out and hire more lawyers.
Yes.
And I hope we take that message to the governor and our colleagues down in Salem.
I do have a question for, I guess, everyone. When we're talking about public defenders and some of the other judicial areas of focus, traditionally that's not the primary responsibility of the city. We wouldn't necessarily be the primary advocate for it. At least we don't touch it directly currently, but it obviously has a very direct impact on the criminal justice system in the city of Portland, and our failure to have adequate public defenders is having remarkably negative impacts on livability in the city of Portland. So I guess it's just sort of a process thing when we're looking at something that, ideally Multnomah County would be screaming about.
Yes, and they are.
How do we? It's just process. How do we work with them on this?
Yeah, that's a good question. We are working with the counties on this. I think we have an important story to tell about how it impacts Portland, and that's the role that we hope to push. But to your point, we aren't the judicial branch, and so these work groups are being spearheaded by the Oregon Justice Department and then being led by the Senate Judiciary and House Judiciary chairs. And so I think our role is to really elevate the crisis that we're seeing in the city, but have the more technical folks drive the solutions. If that is helpful.
It makes sense. Thank you.
No, earlier, I made a comment to this point, which is as we do a local reset on the implementation of our government services, we need to know where the handoffs are with the county. We need to know how we're working with them. And so maybe there's some asterisks to that point where we know that you're in communication with the county. It's a aligned strategy.
Yes, yeah, and I'm happy to. So I'm meeting with Aaron Knott, the legislative director for Multnomah County DA tomorrow. I talked with Multnomah County and Washington County on this issue Wednesday, whatever day before Thanksgiving. So it's a regular conversation, and I'm happy to loop you in at, wherever, as much into the details as you want to get.
Yeah, and I would just like to acknowledge that we are working with the district attorney directly, elected to elected on this issue as well.
Yes. If there's no more questions on that one, we will also be working to introduce legislation that will include a technical fix to the body cam statute and legislation to address street racing events. In regards to our policy positions, we'll be engaging on several fronts. The city will engage in the implementation of Measure 114, advocate for DPSST funding to address the academy backlog, and work with our local government partners to address the impacts of the crisis at the Oregon State Hospital. And I'm happy to take any more questions or discussion. Otherwise, I'll pass it to Eric.
This is not, it's not even a question. I have a couple of statements here. There are a couple of, I think I've been here for about 2 years now, and we think really hard about how to make this city work better. And there are lots of grand challenges that will take generations to fix. And sometimes there are a handful of bottlenecks that could be opened up without a lot of money, and I think in a very practical way. On this slide, there are two that really jump out to me. One is the public defender piece. If you could hire 5 more public defenders to serve the city of Portland, we could make the city substantially better right away. And those 5 lawyers are not going to be that expensive. And I just sure hope we get that done this legislative session. I don't understand why it doesn't happen. Literally, if we could crowdsource the funding for it, it would be worth seeking the authority to crowdsource hiring more public defenders. There's just that important, and we can't wait any longer on this. The other is the DPSST training capacity. If you could give me, if the state would just give us, and literally, if the state would give every Oregonian just like 3 more training sessions a year, we could make a huge dent in the backlog or the absence of police officers, both in the city of Portland, and this is a challenge that I think every police department in the state of Oregon faces. Frankly, as far as I can tell, these trainings are not that expensive. I don't understand why there's this reluctance to fund this appropriately, but I will tell you everything that I've learned since I've been here tells me that the lack of these training sessions is having a significant negative impact on the city of Portland, and I suspect it's having a significant negative impact on the whole state. These are not big ticket items. In fact, these are literally kind of rounding errors, but it would make a profound difference if we could make progress on just those 2 bottlenecks, which I think are, quite frankly, killing the city.
Yeah, I agree, certainly. I think, to the DPSST issue, you're right, it's funding, and this is an opportunity where we can work with other local governments because it is a statewide issue. I think there's only 7 or 8 centers statewide where they do this training, and my understanding is that sometimes candidates have to wait 6 months before they can even get in. So I do think it's elevating it as a statewide issue and pushing for more funding to expand their capacity.
Do you have any sense of how much funding it would take to add, say, 2 more classes?
I am happy to get some of those numbers to you, but I would be too nervous to sort of just spitball them off my head. I'm not a numbers person.
Sure.
I'm not sure what it costs to get because I think some of the trainings are more extensive. But yeah, I can reach out to DPSST and find out what their funding ask is going to be unless we've heard.
I think that would be helpful.
Great.
I would love to hear those numbers. I have informally heard what the costs of this are, and frankly, I was shocked at how negligible the cost is. It almost seems to me like this can't really be a funding issue in terms of us not having the dollars in the bank to do this.
And Commissioner, the agency has put a policy option package on the table as part of their request budget. And again, noting the budget process milestones in a prior slide. The governor's recommended budget in early February will tell a significant story about where the priority is, as well as when the agency goes to the Public Safety Subcommittee of Ways and Means on their budget. That offers us a direct opportunity for advocacy, both on this and the relevant agency for public defenders. So we have it on our radar. It's on the list here, and we will give it our best shot.
Thank you.
And with that, I'm going to keep us moving along for the sake of time. Cover quickly the economic recovery and development priority, where the city will advocate for policies and resources to promote an equitable recovery and prosperous economic future for residents, employers, and community organizations guided by the principles in Portland's 5-year inclusive economic development strategy. This includes championing legislation that contributes to the revitalization of Portland's central city and neighborhood resiliency, extending the statutory sunset for the Enterprise Zone program to 2035, expanding eligibility for the Certification Office of Business Inclusion and Diversity program at Business Oregon and lowering barriers to certification, working to ensure state broadband grant fund eligibility includes local government, institutional and nonprofit entities that provide services for unserved urban residents and low-income communities. And then additionally, the city will support legislation emphasizing small business support, workforce development, and supporting businesses to meet employment needs. And I'll just highlight quickly, when we reference workforce development and supporting businesses to meet unmet employment needs, we are referencing specifically to efforts we will engage in and track the outcomes of the Semiconductor Task Force, which will be a major focus of the House Economic Development Committee, focusing on the categories of research and development strength in Oregon, talent recruitment, land availability, incentives, and regulation, apropos of our conversation earlier about Intel in attracting and retaining employers in the region. And with that, we will move on, if there are no questions, to our fourth priority, and I'll hand it back to Rico briefly.
Thank you, Eric. We now dive into the environmental justice, climate, and infrastructure part of our agenda. There are two main initiatives that we'll be focusing on for the 2023 legislative session. The first one is advocating for legislation to administer state infrastructure programs for maximum leverage of federal funds with an emphasis on resilience and equity in communities. Now, this is important given the ongoing implementation and funding opportunities from the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. We will be working closely with our government relations grants team and appropriate bureaus to maximize and leverage as many of these federal dollars flowing through the state channels. We also want to ensure that these historic investments, along with state funding opportunities, become accessible to community-based organizations. Eric and I will also work closely on climate initiatives as they relate to transportation and infrastructure, so I'll hand it back to him so he can explain a bit more on that.
Thank you. And Commissioner-elect, to your question about leveraging the region's opportunity for electrification of our transportation sector, this is where we'll focus in on that through any legislation that authorizes expenditures for state agencies of federal grants and what criteria they're setting for those programs, as well as then working to follow up, again, with our grants opportunity and advancement team to apply for any state grant funding the city may be eligible for. Specifically on the topic of transportation, the city will work with partners to advance a funding package for the Interstate Bridge Replacement Project consistent with the modified locally preferred alternative and the city's Vision Zero climate and equity policies and goals. Additionally included in the agenda is a policy position supporting long-term sustainable funding mechanisms for Portland's transportation system and at the nexus with climate justice, recognizing the need to reduce transportation climate emissions. Next slide, please. And then our final priority, again, which underpins a lot of the work we do in Salem, is the perennial item in the city's agenda, local funding and authority. To expand and enhance the City of Portland's ability to address policy issues locally and manage the administration of its programming with adequate resources, the city will seek to clarify state statute to reestablish parity between the public and private sectors related to attorney-client privilege, amend statute to allow the city to be the governing body of a park special district, and this is consistent with ongoing planning at the Parks and Recreation Bureau on a sustainable funding future. Finally, we have a placeholder that directs us to pursue legislation and funding if necessary to support the implementation of charter reform in Portland. Conversely, the city will oppose efforts to limit its authority to develop and enforce local ordinances and voter-approved measures, manage its bureaus and their functions, and raise local revenue. And now that we are at the end of the draft, I will turn it back to Niels Tillstrom to wrap us up.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Eric. So at this point, I'd just like to say that we're going to take the feedback that we received today in conversation and apply it to the drafts and engage in additional conversations with your teams and your own selves. And ahead of the council's anticipated acceptance of the agendas the first week of January 2023. So as a reminder, as Eric had mentioned, the Office of Government Relations will host a legislative breakfast with representatives of Portland's state legislative delegation the morning of January 12th, and we'll be following up with your staff shortly. At this moment, I'd like to thank the staff of the Office of Government Relations for their hard work, the staff of our Office of Equity and Human Rights for their collaboration, and thank you and your staffs and Bureau staff for being partners in this process.
Great, and I would just like to close this out. I want to first of all thank everybody for a very productive session today, and Nils, I want to thank you and your entire team for the great work that you put into these proposals. And it's always great to see our Washington folks here. Vicki, it's awesome to see you and see you happy and healthy. And we always appreciate the good work you do. I do have one request of the government relations team, and Nils, you and I and Bobby Lee had a chance to talk about this yesterday. We'd really like you to be bold. And we'd like to be as clear as possible in our needs as a city. As you know, that the council passed 5 resolutions on November 3rd for the purpose of fast-tracking construction of affordable housing, as well as moving homeless Portlanders closer to services so they can be helped to get off and stay off the streets. And in the near future, I'd like the Office of Government Relations to put together a strategy that we can share with the entire City Council so we have a clear understanding of both how the city's federal and state agenda can work collaboratively to achieve the goals and the vision that has been set out in these resolutions. We need to be very clear about our requests, both to the federal government as well as to the state government. We need to be bold, and we need to see results. And so accountability and follow-up is going to be crucially important over the course of the next couple of years. As such, I look forward to the Office of Government Relations returning to Council to present these agendas for our approval, hopefully in the first week of 2023. This is a great framework discussion today. I think we're in broad agreement on these principles. Now let's dive down to the next level and talk about the brass tacks. What do we want to get done? How are we going to get it done? And how are we going to hold ourselves and our colleagues at other levels of government accountable for the work that we need done to be successful here? So with that, thank you all for your leadership. We are adjourned.